So, in 2007, 800,000 of those people in Arizona. Today, only 3 years later, there's 1.5 million. The number's almost doubled. Out of those families, half of the families in Arizona, in metropolitan Phoenix, again, half of the families make $50,000 a year or less, right? So if we're talking about, I think, what percentage? I'm going to get back to percentage. So, but $50,000 a year, half of metropolitan Phoenix families make that. In poverty, now we're talking, that was 200% poverty. Now at poverty level, which is 11,000 for a family of, for an individual and 22,000 for a family of 4, there's 650,000 individuals in Arizona living below the poverty level. That's a whole mess of people in an area that's, you know, I think it's like 15% of the region's population, right? That was in 2000. Sorry, there was 650 in 2007. Today there is 765. So the number of people in poverty has grown. I think that's probably about 15% or something like that has grown in the last 3 years, right? And that's just like, if you're living below the federal poverty line, which rarely changes, you are really destitute. Like, it's really very difficult. And now, in Arizona, what percentage of people who live below the poverty line do you think have a job? Can someone guess? What percentage?
65.
No, it's only 41. Okay, it's not as bad as you would fear, but it's 40. I think 41%. Like that. So if you take all the people who are out of work, and right now unemployment is 10%. It's historically high, and it's going to stay high for a very long time. That's only half the people who are poor, right? And again, if you think about the programs that even our wonderful President Clinton did, right? We're getting people off welfare into jobs. So those people are now working to still be poor. Right? And so that's where we are in Arizona right now. Now, unfortunately, if you're black or brown, it's much worse for you, right? And right now, if you, for instance, if you're an African American or Latino in Arizona, you're much more likely to be in a low-paying service job than you are in a high-paying job, and you're more likely to be unemployed. Right now, African Americans and Latinos make between 72 and 76% of the average yearly income of their Anglo counterparts. Right? So I think it's $60,000 is the average salary for a family for the average salary for white families, the average income, the average household income, and it's about $40,000 for Latinos and African Americans. Right? Think about that: $40,000 for household income, right? As the average. It's ridiculous. It's very, very bad. So some people would say that that's just a phenomenon of the recent recession, right? That like it. But the idea is it was happening during the boom, the most historic expansion of the economy of the United States between the 1990s, right? Was also the most historic expansion, or we caught on late, 2000 to 2005, 2006 was the biggest expansion in the history of Arizona, right? And so even then, the jobs that were being created were bad jobs, right? And they're not family-sustaining jobs. And so there's a lot of statistics that can point that out, but I'm just going to use two kind of anecdotal pieces of information. Number one is that in 1996, Motorola was the largest employer in Arizona, right? In 2006, Walmart, right? And you can imagine what that means for your company. It's like, it's great that Walmart, but largely that happens is because housing boom takes off, more and more people living in Arizona, they gotta buy stuff, they buy it cheap, they buy it at Walmart, right? So Walmart's coming in is not necessarily the worst thing, except for Walmart is a terrible employer, right? And they actually drive wages down for everyone. And so that's basically where our economy is. But the other thing is that between 1970 and 2005, the aggregate income rate, the rate of growth of aggregate income in the state of Arizona was the second highest in the nation. So that means that the total amount of money that Arizonans were earning was growing faster than any other state but one. I don't actually know which one it was, but I know we were second, right? And so. But that's a very misleading statistic, because you take into account the fact that in that period, prices in Arizona were going up more than they ever had gone up before, particularly in housing, but the cost of living was going up. But number two, there are more Arizonans earning money than ever before, right? So if you adjust that statistic for inflation and for population growth, and you take instead the real per capita income, our growth was 46 out of 50 states, right? So the greatest expansion in the history of Arizona, individual people were not getting any wealthier in Arizona, and in fact, every other state except for 4 were doing it. 50 states? Not 52 states. Every other state except for 4 was doing better than we were.